Hi everybody, welcome to the very first episode of Star Citizen Live for 2020. I'm your host, Jared Huckabee. Now, before we get started with SCL today, I did want to take a few moments to take a quick chat about some news that went out earlier this week. You can just hang tight here. About the potential return of another Q&A show that we used to do called Calling All Devs. I made a Spectrum post, it was cool, it was a big deal. In my excitement, I left out a few salient details. While we're always examining the existing programs and still want to bring back another forum besides SCL for you to be directly in touch with our developers, ask them questions and get answers and stuff, that show may not come back in exactly the same format or even the same name as Calling All Devs. It may or may not. We're still evaluating. We're taking the time right now to figure out precisely what we want to do. What we love about that format is that it gives our players a place to speak directly to a broad array of developers and not just the ones that we can get here on a Friday. But we always want to improve on what's come before and not just keep repeating the same notes. So the timing of this program, the specific length, even the name of the program, they're all up for grabs. Basically, we're all developing that right now, so stay tuned for more information. You're going to hear more about what we're doing as soon as we have it figured out. The questions you guys put together, awesome. We're feeling really good about it, and from the sheer amount of replies that you guys gave us, it looks like you guys are feeling really good about it too, so stay tuned, it's coming. It just may or may not be called Calling All Devs. It may or may not be this long, this long, this long. It may not have picture-in-picture. We're gonna work all that stuff out, but hang tight, it's coming, we're excited. That done?
Hi.
Hi!
How's it going?
Look who surprised me the other day. Now, when we posted the thread for this show, we were originally scheduled at 8 o'clock because Todd is usually from our Frankfurt studio, and we do the early shows here to account for the time differences there. And we were all set, and everyone was there. We had the room booked out, and Ulf was on it. And then he walks into the office yesterday, and he goes, "Hi, Pumpkin." And I'm like, "You're here?"
Yes.
So yeah, so we moved the time so we didn't have to quite wake up at super early in the morning. So we are here now. Todd, for anybody who's very confused, like this is your first program, this is the first show you've ever watched, like what the heck is going on? Why don't you tell everybody who you are and what you do for Star Citizen?
My name's Todd Papy. I'm the Star Citizen live game director. So what that means is I work with the team on the releases and help focus, what's going out in the release, making sure that there's a certain quality control associated with it. And then also working with the team of developers as far as other things regarding pillars. So in my pillar, I've got AI, I've got UI, and I've got what we consider EUP, which is mining and that kind of gameplay. And then just making sure that we all communicate because we're very big company across multiple continents, and
yes.
And sometimes we have communication errors.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's telling tales out of school of the 5 studios distributed across the world. Communication is probably one of our biggest ongoing challenges, as it would for any company that's got this distributed kind of thing. So, things like the handovers are incredibly important. The morning syncs, like it seems like the first couple hours, the last couple hours for you, first couple hours for us are always in meetings to make sure that everybody's on the same page.
Correct.
So, yeah, it's definitely one of those big tasks that doesn't show up on the roadmap because it's ongoing or whatever. It's just communication. We don't just talk to you, we talk to each other. All right, so as usual, finally we're getting into it. Welcome, it's 2020, I was at Disney World for a week. This show could have just been me telling Disney World stories. I tried, they said no. As usual, we asked for questions earlier in this week, and you guys delivered. You submitted a whole bunch of questions and voted up which ones you wanted to see answered most. So we're going to get right into those as we start. Additionally, you can submit your questions right now, fresh, hot off the press, by dropping your questions in either Twitch chat, where we're broadcasting right now, or in Spectrum, which is our bespoke communication platform. Just do our community management team a favor, preface your question with the word "question" in capital letters, surrounded by brackets. That helps pull it out from all the other conversations. And say hi to Tyler while you're there. He's feeling under the weather.
Hi, Tyler.
Hi, Tyler. Thanks for being here, man.
Yeah.
Okay. Right off the bat, we had a number of questions related to the the release of server-side object container streaming, or SOC. So we're just going to group those here at the beginning, get those out of the way. They kind of touch all on each other, so I'll skip if one answer goes into the other one.
Okay.
But right off the bat, it seems initially that server-side OCS or SOCs had a good impact on AI. But over time, the AI has reverted to mannequin mode, as this backer refers to it. Is this a SOX issue, or is it indicative of something else?
It's a server-side issue. So obviously with SOX being introduced, that was fundamental technology that touched everything. So every team had work to do for SOX, and every team will have some work to do for server meshing. And so right now, with the release of SOX, our server frame rate isn't at the level that we want it to be at. And when it does run at that level, then the AI works the way that you would see in kind of a normal single player game. However, when it's running at 6 frames a second or somewhere around there, then we start getting into some packet loss and other issues that make the AI look wonky. And since this was our first release, and obviously kind of even in a more time compressed release, meaning with the holidays and holiday break, I think that basically introducing this technology and seeing that it hasn't completely fallen over and we broke the back on a lot of the issues. I think over the next releases you'll see the improvement that we're all hoping for and we're all looking for right now.
Yeah, it can't be understated. We've touched on this multiple times between Star Citizen Live, Inside Star Citizen, Pillar Talks, stuff like that, that server-side object container streaming required a refactor of every single asset in the game. It's like nothing carries over from 3.7 in exactly the same way as it did in 3.8.
From a code standpoint, this tech initiative had been going on for quite a while, and so now obviously once we get it live, we start seeing a lot of the issues that, frankly, we don't see in we don't see internally because we can't hammer the server all the time with 50 QA people. And then even then, when the server stays up for, let's say, a long time, then we're starting to see either memory leaks or other issues that might be causing the server to slow down.
But that's one of the great things about having our live test environment, our alpha test environment, is that we can get the numbers with our backers that we can't get with our QA team.
Yeah.
So to really handle this. Plus, we had a huge influx of new players in Q4. So the servers were hammered pretty good, and they hammered pretty well.
Yes.
Don't tell my 6th grade English teacher. Hammered pretty well in Q4.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. The issue council is doing great. We're seeing tons of reports. People have been working on it. Even before we left for holidays.
Yes,
Come back after holidays.
and we saw it, and basically our AA guys are already talking about what they can do. So it is something that's being worked on, being looked at right now. Now, whether those changes come in 3.8.1 or down the line, obviously, if not 3.8.1, then it'll be 3.9.
Okay. Next question was more general here. How satisfied overall are you with the rollout of SOX right now?
Half and half. I'm satisfied. I'm more than satisfied that the team was able to do what they needed to do to get the release out the door and make sure that we broke the back of it. I think that Steve Humphreys and the main tech guys did a fantastic job of doing what they needed to do to get it working. Now, obviously, there's some of the gameplay ramifications that we're seeing right now that I wish were in a better state, and we will continue to work towards improving that. So I wish that came out at the same time as the SOX release, and that everything was magical and it worked the way that it was supposed to work. Right now, again, we're just investigating it and trying to see what we can do to get the server frame rate up and running the way it needs to be running, and the way that we had it even before SOX. There were times where we had the server frame rate running, at least 12 to 15. So then at that point in time, we definitely get better performance from the AI as well as ship-to-ship combat.
Where we're at right now is not necessarily a surprise. We knew there would be bugs. We knew there would be all kinds of, when you changed the code underlying every single aspect of Star Citizen, there were going to be bugs. And it's, we may have hoped for something, you hope for the best, you prepare for the worst.
Correct.
So we've had people on deck working on this. 381, as you mentioned, is already in progress. I don't have no idea when it's coming. I'm not the when person anymore. So look to Spectrum and all this stuff to find out when, but folks are working on that, and it's still an exciting time. I got to watch a lot of gameplay over the holidays, and it was not just from the additions of new content like microtech and stuff like that. It just seemed like the overall experience was better. Yes, there were struggles, and many of the questions are about the struggles. We'll get into the struggles.
There are plenty of struggles, but I mean, I'm extremely proud of what the team has been able to do.
That's what I was trying to get at. The overall experience was.
I think even if you look at how much it's changed from 3.0 until now, like the game and basically our workflow, the way that we adjust things, the gameplay associated with it, there's still thorns in our side that we know of and that we continue to work towards to fix. But I think that we've definitely gotten over that large hump.
The other server-side related question has to do with desync and teleporting and stuff. It's like the AI. We're on it.
I mean, it really comes down to frame rate, and we do prediction, and sometimes that prediction, is wrong, and so then once we get that packet back, then we teleport them to the right spot. But obviously, with it running so slow, then we are going to have those issues, and until we can actually break the back of that, then unfortunately, we will be continuing to deal with that.
All right, moving on from the server-side OCS stuff. Players are finding that auto gimbal is the clear and obvious choice of most encounters. Well, their opinion, although I might kind of agree with it. Will we see some attention to making fixed weapons a competitive option?
Yes. So just too long didn't read, yes. With auto gimbal, and even then we've created a team called Vehicle Experience Team, which will be focusing on some of these issues that we're having, and in particular looking at the combat distances and just the combat experience in general, looking at how the missiles aren't working the way that they need to be working, looking at turrets, how they're not working the way that they need to be working, and then just overall balancing of the features and how the coolers and the quantum drives and all these other gameplay items fit on the ship and how they all play together. So that is their main focus of going through and looking at combat and making sure that we're, right now, I would consider us very much a pixel hunter, and I would prefer it to be much more intimate, as far as play style. So we're playing around with that and trying to see the combat distances and what we can bring them into and what feels right. I think Chris has his idea of what it is, John Crew has his idea, I have my idea, and so we're just trying to mesh those together and see what comes out.
Now, you low-key mentioned the creation of a new team, the Vehicle Experience Team. Just because I can already see in chat people have latched onto that and stuff. That's not like a group of brand new people that are coming.
No, and in fact,
it's a new team of existing.
In fact, the team includes basically some of our system designers that we had in the UK already, and Rob Johnson, who's one of our more senior lead programmers, who basically was just a bug machine. Just being able to squash all of them. So, and because he knows all the systems that are being touched there, that's why he's part of that vehicle experience team. And then we also pulled another programmer off of the EU vehicle feature team and put them on there.
From the live chat, do ship upgrades actually do anything? coolers, for example, are cooling per second. Does this affect actual performance?
So yes, it does. If it doesn't, then that means that they copied and pasted numbers wrong. But the idea is that coolers and basically any items have pros and cons associated with them. So one of them might cool at a faster rate, but might pull more power. Now, one of the things that we don't have right now and isn't being shown off to the player is basically ways to compare one item to another. And that's something that we've talked about. It's something that we know we need to do. We have an idea of how we want to play that out and build that UI experience or the UX experience for that. It's just something that we haven't been able to start on just yet. But there are differences.
Gotcha. We have a question about exactly that thing about comparing the stats later on. So we'll just refer to this question now. Can we get a little clarification about platform persistence? It's been said that money in ships purchased in game would be retained once platform persistence was enabled, while CIG reserved the right to perform wipes when needed. Does this mean that the ships earned in game can still be potentially wiped from our accounts?
Yes, it means that. I mean, it basically, if that ship was earned via, we need to be able to take a look at how players earn money. We know that there's an exploit there right now that people are earning crazy amounts of alpha UEC, and so anything that was earned during that time, we're going to have to wipe.
There's the ship duplication bug, stuff like that.
Exactly. So we will have to wipe. That's the whole point of until we go final. We need to work out the kinks of everything, and there are definitely a lot of issues, and there are things that we have to be able to reset.
That is what the purpose of an alpha is for. I mean, I think the big takeaway with the addition of platform persistence is that instead of we have to wipe every time, now we can selectively wipe only when we deem necessary.
Yeah, and again, I think a lot of what players can earn in one quarter, or let's say we did a release perfectly right on time at the end of March, and between then and June, let's say we have a ship that, from our estimate, our idea, we want it to take 6 months for the average player, not somebody that's sinking tons and tons of time into it, but the average player to earn in 6 months. Okay, well, if we don't have this persistence, then we're never going to see if that number's correct. And so once we get that persistence in, then we can start seeing, okay, are these numbers that we're setting for these long-term goals, or are these reputation amounts and so on and so forth that we're building for mission givers and trying to unlock, are those working the way that we need them to work? So we're able to test right now a lot of our short-term goals, but we can't test our midterm or long-term goals. And that's really what this is supposed to be doing, is starting to test those midterm and long-term goals.
Okay. Next question. Are you happy with the 30K feature? Now, the question is simply, what are 30K errors? Why do they happen? Why do they happen so frequently? And then I've lost more cargo through no fault of my own. Yes, 30K errors. For this one, we went directly to the platform team to get an answer for you. This is exactly the kind of thing that we're hoping to be able to do for a show like Calling All Devs. I'm just going to read what the platform team wrote, so they couldn't come here. 30K errors signify that the game client lost connection with the game server. On P2 environments, this can frequently signify a server crash, but on more stable builds, it may be representative of connectivity issues between the computer the client is running on and the game environment. In further discussion, we talked about this a bit yesterday and stuff. 30K is somewhat of it's one of those things that sits on top. It's a catch-all of a huge variety of things underneath. It's not just server crashes or a loss of connectivity. It's almost anything that can't be specifically nailed down gets the 30K. And that's why you see it probably more often than others, and that's why things like the issue council are so incredibly important for this. You guys, keep reporting them, keep giving us the specific details of your instance of the 30K. That helps our guys find out, okay, there's this cause, we can snap that, and then there's this cause, and we can smash that, and then there's this cause, and we can smash that. But yeah, it is our El Guapo.
Yeah, and it has been in previous releases, and I think it will just continue to be. But I mean, obviously, with the introduction of SOCs, we're going to see this, and then when we introduce server meshing, I'm sure we're going to see this as well.
Anybody knows where the El Guapo reference came from? I'm sorry. Will we see quality of life patches for 3.8 or strictly the new ship content patches?
For 3.8.1, you'll definitely see some quality of life fixes. Basically, we don't want to mess up our feature development time too much. So we have what we consider live must fixes, or things that are associated with the gameplay experience that I've already gone through and triaged. And then we'll be focusing on those. And then obviously anything that doesn't make it there, then we'll go into 3.9. But the way that, and you guys kind of saw it last year where we weren't so strict on our feature lock date, and what that did is that kind of cascaded into releases not going out on time. Now, Aaron and I are very strict on our feature lock date, and that basically comes in the middle of February this year. So then that means that basically from now until mid-February, this is features that will be worked on, and some of them had already been started in 3.8 and even 3.7. And this is when everything comes together, and that feature is locked, and it's ready to go out, and it's ready to go to the Evocati. And since it takes us a certain amount of time to basically go from Evocati to Wave 1 to Wave 2 to live, we can't shortchange that time. And we've seen that's what happened in the past, or we tried to shortchange it, and it didn't work.
This is where things like the quarterly release initiative that we started in the beginning of 2018, 2018, 2019, and the staggered development initiative, hit.
Yes.
It's some people are working on things. Everybody should be working on things on like a 6-month cadence with the staggered development when applicable. When
applicable,
not everyone, but again. But it's in order to hit that quarterly release with consistency, we have to have those cutoff days. We have to have those feature lock days.
Yeah,
and say, we wanted this feature for 3.9 or 4.0 or 3.6 or whatever, but it just didn't make that
correct
thing. So instead of holding the date, it moves to
another patch. And I mean, we're trying to do that for everything, whether that be features, content. So content is, let's say, levels that are coming out, or ships, or so on and so forth. Like, we want to make sure that everything that we know is going into that release is hitting that date. Obviously, with our schedules right now, we need to kind of adjust things, but we're trying to go through and make sure that everything hits that date, so then that gives everybody the proper time to react to bugs and issues that come up, when testing.
How hard is it? I'm going to throw my own personal question there. How hard is it? You've got that. They got that. You said middle of February, so I'm just going to say February 15th. That's not the actual date or anything. But February 15th runs around, and somebody is so close to getting their thing done. They're like, "Oh, if you just gave me to February 17th, I could have it." How hard is that not to? Keep pushing it?
At that point in time, we do have special cases, and we do. At that point, we do review it. So we look at it and we're like, okay, this one's super, super close. And as long as it's super, super close, then we're like, okay, you will have to do manual integration into the branch once it's created. But we review it again at that point in time. We had it with no-fly zones, or what we consider restricted areas, and where we reviewed it, and the feature was pretty much there. It was just that we hadn't tested it and hadn't gotten it into all of the correct content. So therefore, once we started looking at it in Lorville and Area 18, because each one of our major landing zones are their own special butterfly.
Yes, they are.
So once we started looking in context with those, then it just wasn't ready. You know, so we needed to make sure that, okay, hey, you know, feature's done. Now content has actually had its part and done its work, and now we're looking at it in context with everything. And so that's what we're pushing for.
For clarity, you're talking about the rework of the restricted areas.
Yes, sir.
And stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
As I mean, restricted areas have been in game for quite some time, but you know, we've been working on a reworking of how they.
Well,
how they
it was that we had this end goal in mind, which is what we have now, but there were kind of patches working towards that end goal, and so now we have what we want and what we feel we need.
And you'll hear more about the restricted area rework on ISC this quarter. So, let's see. Question from the live chat: are you monitoring the economy right now? Because
Yes.
it feels very grindy and makes it hard to get more ships and bug test them.
Well, yes, we have telemetry on basically the economy, and we look at it constantly. Now, one of the things that I think if you refer to Tony's talk at CitizenCon, there's the quantum, and I'm lobbying for a different name for that one. But there's the quantum talk, and where that mimics an economy, and so if something over in this area isn't being used that much, then the prices will go down. Versus if something's being used more over here, then the prices go up. Now, what we have to do is we do that by hand every quarter, and I understand that some things will feel somewhat grindy. Now, there are certain things that we do want to feel grindy. So like a lot of the in-game ships, you know, anything of a capital class, I consider that very, very grindy. You know, like I can't go out and buy a mansion, you know, and I don't think, you know, the average person would be able to. But if we pull together as a unit, you know, then maybe we can.
There are also interesting challenges in trying to balance for an economy that doesn't have all of the game features
Correct.
that we're intending for. It's like it's trying to balance an economy when you don't have all the ways a player will have to make money.
Correct, and again, like if you think something's grindy on this, like you know, with our mission rewards, or like these are all going to be in flux. You know, we've got basically just so many people looking at this and working on it, and once we start getting some of these other things coming into place, like the quantum, like this will actually help those guys adjust things on the fly and be able to say, okay, you know, here it is, but here are the rails that it can go, you know, between, kind of thing.
Have you pitched Tony on another name besides quantum?
He and I see very, very different in names. I like short names, and if he told you the quantum's full name, then it's...
Yes, I heard quantum.
Yeah.
I can't remember it right now because I was sick that day. But
Yeah.
it was delightful watching his on stage during his performance and watching him reveal quantum. And you know, it's the community, you guys were justifiably so very excited in the chat, and we're very appreciative. A little behind the scenes story here. The AV company, you know, the people who don't follow Star Citizen, don't know Star Citizen, don't, you know, they're just working in the industry. They were like, what the hell? Like you put together a convention to show this, and people are enjoying. Like they didn't get it. It was just like, yeah, we're kind of a special case, guys. It was very funny. It was just very humorous to me. I kept telling them, it's like, you're going to see some stuff and you're going to be like, I can't believe you guys are like talking about this or making this a thing. It's like, but for our community and for our followers, you know, it's big news. So it was really fun to just see that dichotomy there. Next question. I find that the Halo asteroid belt contains mostly small asteroids that lack significant resources worthy of the mole's time and effort. Most of the more valuable ore is still locked down in small rocks on moons. Will we see an increase in the yield of asteroids to make the mole more useful?
Yes. So again, we're going through and evaluating basically the placements, and we actually adjusted. We have what we consider a feature team and then a content team. Okay, as soon as a feature's done, then it needs to be handed over to a content team. So, and then once that content team is working on it, then the adjustments of the where stuff is placed and how much it's worth, so on and so forth, like that will always kind of grind through that economy team and that content team working together. With mining, we just did that switch. So in 3.9, we'll basically start seeing adjustments, and that team is also putting stuff on Microtech and its moons, basically in, I think, Sprint 2, Sprint 3 of this coming quarter. So with the Air and Halo and even just the clusters and everything, like we know that we need to go through and a lot of those asteroids are super old and won't necessarily look good and with our mining tech and all of that. So that's one of the things that Ian and I are thinking about and worrying about. What does an asteroid field feel like, in our game? There's what it's like in real life, where you might see one every now and then there's obviously like the movie version of it, where it's super, super dense and you want to fly through everything. So we need to figure out what is our Star Citizen asteroid field like.
You mentioned something that I think makes a good point here. There's feature teams and content teams.
Yeah.
It can very much be seen from an outside perspective, like the people who make the ships make the gameplay for the ships, and they don't. As far as the ship
Correct.
art versus the feature teams make the tools, make the systems, make the underlying existence of like mining, whatever, and then it's up to the content teams to build the ways in which we use them.
Well, it's for example, like harvestables, okay? When we start building a location, we have an idea, we have a breakdown, okay, here's everything that this location will need. It'll need missions associated, it'll need harvestables associated with it. Here are the different POIs that we consider points of interest. Here are the mission givers or key, NPCs that we need. Here are the stores, so on and so forth. So we have that breakdown, and then when we start talking about, okay, is this using a unique harvestable or a unique mineable, what is needed there, and then we need to make sure that we're building it associated with it. When we're talking about the feature team, they're building, okay, here's how you harvest, here's how you mine, right. And the full game loop associated with that. So finding it, and then they're working with other feature teams, like radar and scanning is here in LA. So Dan was working with Kirk and Mark Avent and the team here for ping and trying to find it, and then he was working with environment artists for actually building it, and then effects team for actually putting in different effects and putting out different mining heads and so on and so forth. So it's think of feature teams as kind of like the heart and soul of the feature, and they are the one responsible for delivering that feature. But they have a lot of dependencies and a lot of requirements that they pull from different support teams, whether those be content teams or other support teams or other feature teams.
Gotcha. The way I was thinking about it, I used to be a swimming pool contractor. One of my 30 some odd jobs I used to do, and I used to go to vendors and purchase engineering. So I didn't have to know engineering. I didn't have to know how the engineering worked. The shape of rebar and how to put that.
Yeah.
So I would buy the engineering and then use that to build a pool. You know, they would give me the basic fundamentals. Okay, I know I'm going to need this to be load bearing here. I know I'm going to need this to be, this to be able to withstand this much pressure.
From a housing standpoint, you were the general contractor.
Yeah.
So the feature team is the general contractor, and then they sublet to an electrical team or to let's say a framing team or a drywall team or so on and so forth. And then but the general contractor is responsible for the end product.
Next question from the live chat says, how much research should we do on a potential bug before filling out an issue report?
How much research should they do?
Before filling out a bug on the issue council?
I mean, if they run into something, then I think it really depends on the bug.
Yeah, I think all information in some way or another is valuable because it brings it to attention. It's one of the reasons we have the duplication on the issue council. Lets more people verify it, stuff like that. I mean, you may add this much to it, and then somebody else is adding this part to it, and then somebody else is adding this part to it, and through the duplication feature, they can build an entire. We can build an entire picture of what the bug is.
Obviously, if they can produce any repro steps and ways to find for our internal QA to repro it at any point in time, fantastic. But if they're just playing and then they run into this issue, then okay, I would say let's enter a bug if they can, because we want to be aware of everything. Then it's. If they run into it again or somehow magically find a way of reproing it, then fantastic.
I mean, I think ultimately it comes down to do what you feel is comfortable. I mean, this isn't your job. Presumably you all have careers and jobs and lives everywhere, but as you can help, we appreciate it.
Yes, we do.
We're actually getting quite a few questions about bugs. Will we get any anti-stuck system if we get stuck in a cave, for example, instead of having to relog?
It's something that we've talked about.
Slash stuck.
Yeah, it's something that we've talked about, but there hasn't been any movement on that right now.
There's a question about the ship duplication bug. We touched on that a little bit earlier. We still reserve the right to do wipes.
Yeah.
And stuff, so.
Well, and I think with the ship duplication bug, I don't know if it's server side, so if it's our backend guys, then we should be able to do a hot fix at any point in time, or if it actually needs to be fixed with a patch. So it might be one of those things where it just magically disappears and we message people that we found it, or it'll be in a patch.
What can you tell us about the ability to spawn Parasite craft and vehicles with and inside our ships?
It's something that CR wants done this year. So
this is where I'm going to go ahead and do that thing where I say that doesn't mean it's coming this year. Schedules, dependencies, all that stuff, but it is our intention.
It is very much our intention, just because, again, obviously we have a lot of Parasite crafts, and with our introduction of a lot of these larger ships, we want to be able to spawn, and even then, let's say you have a freelancer and you want to be able to spawn your Nox in there, we want to be able to do that and reduce a lot of the headache that happens right now.
Do you think any of that will involve the docking of the Merlin to the Constellation?
Well, there's the ship-to-ship docking aspects that we'd have to obviously look at the UX experience of that, but there's that. There's obviously the Pisces and the Carrack, and other things that, even the Caterpillar and its control module.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that one specifically because the Pisces inside the Carrack, the Ursa inside the Constellation, the Nox inside the whatever, but the Merlin and the Archimedes are unique cases because
it sits right there. Yep.
All right, let's see what else we got. Why is there no place to spawn vehicles on Microtech? Even without new Babbage, there are no pads anywhere?
Because when new Babbage and everything came in, there's a certain amount of time that it takes to actually drop assets onto planets. So with Planetech V4, we had to actually go in and redrop everything across all planets and moons.
Right.
And that took our team a fairly significant amount of time, or took a few of our guys a fairly significant amount of time to go through and redrop everything. Now, with Microtech coming on pretty late, and we just didn't have enough time to actually go in and drop that stuff. Now for 3.9, with the moons and obviously New Babbage coming into play, all of that stuff should be dropped.
Cool. Okay, the next question was about expanding the current descriptions to ship items to list more details so that you can compare
Yeah,
them. We touched on that a little bit.
What we have right now from a text standpoint, like it works. You know, it gives you a description, but I don't think it'll say, okay, well, this thing is X amount better than this thing on cooling, and you know, there's no number stats that people can break down. There's no, you know, even if it's just as simple as a bar for a consumer to understand, okay, hey, this thing is this much better than this, you know, and that's why it warrants this price, kind of thing. Like there's none of that breakdown right now. It's something that the economy team, the people that do stores, as well as the UI team, we've been in constant communication, and we've been talking about how we want to do this. It's just finding that time, because the UI team right now is going through and hitting a lot of the major aspects, meaning the visor rework, whether that be in the actual ships and how the ships function, and you know how that looks. And then right now we're looking at the FPS.
There's a couple of questions. Will there be a bug fix patch before 3.8.1? 3.8.1 is the first bug fix patch, so there won't be a patch before.
There might be a hot fix or something like that, but as far as like anything else, it'll come out in 3.8.1.
Trading. It's currently very painful.
Yes.
There's a bunch more to the question, but I kind of just want to leave it there.
It is.
No, the rest of the question goes on about the bugs that can cause you to lose cargo.
Yeah.
Quantum travel that'll smash you into a planet's surface, stuff like that.
Yeah. So
kiosks that fail.
Yeah.
Trading, Todd.
So
Trading.
So there's all the outside factors. If we just looked at basically any of the disconnection errors, or we look at any of the other things that might theoretically go into a mission, or just the experience of flying from one area to another area, there's some painful things that happen there. We know about certain ones of them, and then other ones we might not know about, or they might not manifest themselves very often. So, like Jared said before, please let us know and issue counsel, and then it's something that myself and the player relation guys, and we talk about it I think it's every week or every other week. You know, we go through a lot of the issue counsel stuff. Then from there, there's the actual aspect of trading and understanding, hey, Grim Hex is buying this for a certain amount versus Lorville is buying this for a certain amount. Right now, I think a lot of people go to external apps or external websites, you know, to find out, okay, hey, this is what the price is here versus here, kind of thing. We want to fix that. It's something that we've talked about, you know, using the star map for, and also obviously that also plugs into quantum. And so with mobiGlas, we need to switch that over to building blocks, and then it will be going through and fixing every single app and making sure, okay, with the star map, you know, you click on a planet, you get the actual information. You click on Lorville, you actually get the information of Lorville. Maybe you want to find out what trading is there. Then you click on that, and then it gives you the appropriate list of, you know, so that you can, as a player, you can choose, this is what I want to do. This is how, okay, I want to go here, sell this, and then I want to go here and sell that, you know. So you can actually make an informed decision of where you want to travel. So hopefully that explains what...
Yeah, there's certainly trading is certainly suffering from a a multitude of bugs.
Well,
but
it's
without
the
the
same thing
bugs,
with,
though.
Yeah, it's the same thing with missions, though.
Yeah.
I mean, like missions are a culmination of all these other systems,
Yeah.
and so if one of them falls down, like for example, you drop something and it falls through the floor. Okay, well, now your mission's completely screwed.
I think what I was wanting to get at, though, is that it's not just the bugs, though.
No.
We want changes to the trading system through
Correct.
the building blocks and the mobiGlas.
Correct,
Like that.
and then then there's the spicy elements of volatile cargo, or cargo that's needs refrigeration, or those.
Let's talk
types of
about
things.
cargo, Todd.
But that to me is the interesting. That's where you start getting a lot of interesting gameplay, where you need to do the Kessel run in 13 parsecs versus 20 parsecs.
I'm just going to let the Star Wars reference lie. Let's talk about cargo.
Yes.
Let's talk about how happy are you with cargo? Because that's a big part of trading. A big part of trading is the cargo system.
I'm not happy with cargo. I mean, what we've.
This isn't one of the questions. I just know he wasn't happy, so I want you to know what I know here.
He's poking me. Basically, we have a cargo grid, and then we have what we want to do for cargo, and we have what we consider kind of first implementation. So we have the 1 SEU version of cargo. We have a 0.5 version just so that the players can actually carry it, just because we couldn't use anything that we didn't have the cargo jack yet, or the multi-tool working, to actually move the 1 SEU boxes around. So then there's iCache, and basically myself and John have a whole bunch of work that we want to do on cargo to improve it, to make it fun and interesting, and make it relevant for a lot of these bigger ships. However, we need iCache to come online first, because if we do any of this work before iCache, there will be a certain amount of rework that will need to be done after iCache. Mm-hmm. So we're waiting for the iCache boot to drop, which is basically allowing us to have that persistence associated with it. And then at that point in time, we hit this, because cargo and trading to me is a major staple of the game. We've got resource acquisition. You've kind of seen what we've done with mining. Obviously, there's other resource acquisitions that we can do, whether that be salvage, farming, so on and so forth. So, and then cargo is another one, whether that be freight, people, or data. So like there's work there, and we know that there's work there, and we've been chomping at the bit to do that work, but basically our tech directors are saying don't do it until iCache comes in.
It can, for those who follow the project for a while, or for even those who may have followed it from the beginning, like some of us here, it can always seem like there's the next thing, because you're following along in development.
Yeah.
There's we can't do this until object container streaming comes in. Can't do this until server-side object container streaming comes in. Can't do this until server meshing comes in. Can't do this until platform persistence comes in. Yeah. Can't do this until development is always about dependencies.
Right, but there's certain things. So for example, like with cargo, for us to do like extremely volatile cargo, or like a box that you pick up and you move around, and if you don't get rid of it in a certain period of time, it explodes. In order for us to do that work, like it's going to take us, let's say 2-3 sprints, to do that work. Okay, iCache right now, I think internally is scheduled around, in another quarter or two, internally. So for us to do that work, and then basically redo that work is not.
No.
It's not a good use of time.
No. And for anybody that's not familiar with the term iCache, recommend you check out the keynote during CitizenCon, or even I think there was some of it in Pillar Talk, the last Pillar Talk. In a layman's term, it's the ability for me to drop my ship there, or my Lando pony there, log out, and have it still be there for somebody else to come and find it later on.
Yeah.
In its simplest form. Okay, what else do we got? Have you considered a mission for criminal players from other criminals to take out bounty hunters who have collected X amount of player bounties reverse bounties or assassinations or
hitman.
Hitmen, yeah.
Yeah.
Something to take out the hunters.
No, but I'm more than willing to take a look into that now, because one of the things that at least the mission content team and I are going to be focusing on is the bounty hunter missions, as well as the delivery missions, and making sure that those get up to what we consider a gold standard. So I'll speak with Luke about that and see what we can do.
Okay. We're towards the end of the broadcast, so some of the questions are getting more, hey, can we have this, or stuff like that. So
Okay.
we'll just pose a few of those, like that one. Will we be? What can you tell us about UEC transfers between players? Just wanting to be able to hand this person 1,000 UEC or 2,000.
Yeah,
UEC.
it's something we want, and I think part of it is, again, with the Flash, the way that the mobiGlas is currently built. Like, the idea would be that this happens via mobiGlas. It's something that we figured was going to be part of the contract manager itself. We know the work needs to happen. I think there's some back-end aspects that need to happen first, but then it's something that Tony and I are well aware of, and we want this to happen.
Yeah.
Because let's say this person isn't grouped up with you for some reason, so when you do the mission sharing, it's not working. Then we want them to at least be able to pay for.
If somebody comes along and does you a mitzvah, you want to be able to tip the person. You want to be able to,
exactly.
Thank you for your help.
Exactly.
Like that. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty fundamental, common.
It is a
thing,
fundamental thing.
Large-scale online game.
Yeah.
Like this, so.
The issue is right now the mobiGlas and building blocks is like I think it's us focusing on Visor first, then mobiGlas, and getting that reworked.
Okay. What are your thoughts on being able to loot people and then either keep or resell the loot?
Yes, that's what we want. So we want the players to be able to loot each other or loot NPCs, and then at that point in time be able to sell their goods. And
let's talk about turrets. For some, a lack of education is their WAPO. For others, turrets.
Yeah.
There were some improvements made in 3.8 to turrets,
Some,
to the sighting and stuff like that. But a lot of folks are still struggling with it, especially against small, faster targets. Seems like we've struggled with turrets for a while.
Yeah. Yes, we have. So
again, I didn't ask a question. I'm just wanting to see what you're saying.
Well, no, we have. This to me is something that's why we created the vehicle experience team.
Okay.
Because the issue that we have a lot of times is our feature teams gets, okay, hey, we work on this. Now they move on to the next feature, then they move on to the next feature, and sometimes the content teams don't have enough time to go through and set up something, because maybe they're not always necessarily in lockstep. However, like, this is the experience team, and so we know, like, the combat distances, the missiles, and basically actually anything that has to deal with projectiles that have explosions on the end of it, whether that be distortion weapons or even missiles right now, we know are not working. You get that desync between the server and client. Turrets. So it's something that's
one of the reasons we formed the new vehicle experience.
Yes, to basically be able to focus on it and work on it and iterate on it multiple times.
So there'll probably be at least one more ISC segment on turrets before we're all said and done.
I want it to be put to bed. All of us want it to be put to bed.
I want it to be put to bed.
Yes.
You know how many between ATV and ISC, you know how many segments I've done on turrets?
15. If it's that much, then that's way too many.
It's like Lucy and Charlie Brown with the football.
Okay.
It's this is it this time.
Yeah.
Kirk's gonna hate me. If you're watching. Now that we have weather on planets, we can all experience flying in low or zero visibility, but we have only a fraction of the tools that a real aircraft uses today to fly in such conditions. Will we get any additional instrumentation to help us fly in low visibility?
it's not something that I don't think we've necessarily talked about it just yet. I think that's something that with John out here next week, we can obviously start having that discussion with Chris, kind of what is needed and what is wanted. I want to see how it serves the gameplay, and then from there, what it actually takes, and with some of the low visibility stuff, I actually want the players to think about, should they be taking a ship into there, and maybe a ground vehicle is better, or maybe just not going in there is how many people are going to be flying into the red storm of Jupiter? Like, I'm sure people will do that, but
I would.
Yeah.
But I'm stupid.
But maybe you fly a drone in first.
Fair enough. Or maybe that's even something that a drone can really report back, additional information, stuff like that. Currently in Star Citizen, changing a ship's loadout requires the ship to be stored, and can be this one's worded weird. And also, sometimes you have to store it in order to buy and sell cargo.
Yeah.
Workarounds, like calling one ship to force another into storage, aren't always possible if we don't have a ship in the area and isn't ideal. What can you tell us about this?
So with the ASOP terminal, what we planned to do was just a store button, so a way to store a ship and get it off the landing pad or even, out of a hangar. So then at that point in time, the systems just work. Because a lot of times it might be that maybe the zone around the landing pad or around the hangar isn't working exactly the way it should. So we wanted to at least have this store option on the ASOP terminal. So then that actually fixes a lot of the issues that we have.
We are just about out of time, so I want to do some lightning questions here. It's fine, just short answers to these ones. To try to squeeze a couple more in here. Let's see, how are the new quantum drive stats working for you?
They're not, maybe. I think
goes back to the thing you can't compare them.
I think it really goes back to the comparing. Okay. But there are differences.
Okay. Why can't we sell ore at orbital stations?
That will be fixed soon.
Okay. Currently, when we leave...
And sorry, that will also be played into cargo.
Okay. Currently, when we leave a hab, we cannot re-enter it. Why?
Because right now our habs are not persistent to the players.
Gotcha. What is the thinking behind lowering AUC rewards on NPC bounties?
It's just something in flux, and sometimes we were seeing that the players were earning too much there, so we lower it and we try to increase something else.
Balance?
Yeah.
Okay. Why do none of the habs and orbital stations have windows?
Because the way that we procedurally build them. So there's, we have what we consider an anchor point, which is our view room, and then from there, everything else is generated based off of there, just because our internal and external option containers or for this modular system it's built a different way. So we have what we consider these anchor points that unify the internal and external. And obviously when you start talking about habs, and if we're talking about, let's say 100 habs in there, having those 100 anchor points just isn't going to work the way that we want it to work.
Hawaiian shirts in game.
I want them. Come on. Or full body plush.
Tyler?
Jeremiah will make it happen.
No. I work in the studio with Jeremiah. It's not going to happen. I'll go turn his computer off. So much for a lightning round. All right, Todd, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you for being here in person. That was a delightful surprise to me.
My pleasure. I like it. I like it here. And in particular when it's very, very cold in Germany right now.
It is. And I know a lot of people have a lot of opinions on Southern California, but nobody can shake a stick at its weather.
No.
Man,
no.
I do love being here. All right, that's it for the first SCL Star Citizen Live, not to be confused with ISC, Inside Star Citizen. Those are confused all the time on social media and the spectrum. Like half the time, it was very hard to read feedback because they're talking about one, but they're coming up with Star Citizen Live, first episode of 2020. We'll be back next week with another episode of Star Citizen Live while we continue to work and iterate on our new Q&A show that will come later this year, hopefully. Todd, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
We're just going to be done. We're going to walk over there and hang out. It's lunchtime. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for watching. For the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42, you can subscribe to our channel, or you can check out some of the other shows, and you can also head to our website at www.robertsspaceindustries.com. Thank you very much for watching.